Hello, this recording is for our Thursday lecture of our CSCI 465 for Smart Things Security. So for this lecture will be kind of pretty short. It's talk about some of the security conservation and privacy conservation. So what kind of concern we have. So look at, of course, like we step some statistics, some numbers. Okay, so related to our IoT privacy concerns. So in 2023, so over 15 billion. Okay, so you see right now it's dramatic, like really huge number of IoT devices were like in use, and then we have like prediction. This day will go to like 41 billions by 2027. So kind of like, like maybe probably 2 years later. So it's not even like more than double of it. So because those devices, they are increasingly like embedded in everyday life. So it means like those IoT devices, their privacy implication, so they're fast and going. So that's what we need to know. And because like as what we mentioned in our previous lecture, we talked about like because we have different manufacturer. Okay, so they maybe have maybe their course or maybe for development, so they not always taking the same. Also like because the power they are processing power, so they maybe have different way to address their security level. Okay, and we need to think like what the challenge relate to the privacy. Okay, so firstly it's about the scopes of data collection. So as what we say, like because all those like IoT devices we really use in different situation, like in different environment. So they will have a lot of, especially nowadays, we use to collect lots of personal or some sensitive data. So including like location, some like for personal like health or like your home activity. So even I know like when did you arrive home? Okay, when did you leave your home? When did you turn on your light? Okay, maybe your AC. So all these things. Okay, so maybe some personal preferences. Okay, so maybe you like to turn on something, do you like perform certain action? Okay, or if like a small thermostat, so you're home when you're living, so say your temperature preferences. So, or fitness tracker record like steps, your heart rate, your sleep patterns, all these data being collected. Okay, so once you have the collect, it will like share like to some third-party vendors or sometimes purpose, including the advertisement, analytics, or some like personalization. Okay, so here will be the kind of like challenge. Like of course we don't want to do advertisement or analytics. So even it's pretty similar if you pay attention to some apps, they will pop out some they will have privacy and then decay. They will use your personal information like to sometimes it would be a function. They will say, okay, for better recommendation to offer better service, they ask you to like let them to receive the data, collect your personal information. Okay, and then they can provide you sometimes they use the term called a personalization. Okay, application service. Then do you need to share it? If you don't share it, then you cannot enjoy the service, or like you cannot use the best like utilize functions. Then you need to think. Maybe the speaker, okay, it also record your voice by command, and then they will share to maybe some parties for marketing insights, or sometimes they say if you have if I use some maybe the Amazon Alexa or like some Apple Siri or Google Net, okay, and some like they just use Google. So and when you use, and then they will say, okay, for better service, okay, for better to recognize you, they will ask, okay, they will ask you to recognize your voice and then to promote for related to your personal information. Okay, so after they record, then we need to think, okay, they able to track you. So which user, so they know who are who, okay, who's who, and then they will share the data. Okay, maybe they can share to some window. So you know when nowadays when you try to search something, or when you talk with your friend or related to certain topic, you will realize that when you try to Google something, search something on the app or browser, it pops out all related to what you like you were speaking before. So all these things. So it's like similar for IoT stuff, like they have some maybe keep like monitoring your activity. Then we need things. And right here we talk about privacy. One thing is ethical consideration. Especially for technology. Okay, so we always emphasize like no matter which subject, like most of the subject when you learn, we mention about some ethical issue. Okay, especially when we learn cybersecurity, we spend one chapter like one course to talk about what's the some ethical issues, like what kind of consideration we have to, because we have the ability to track individuals like behavior, their activities, some professors. So they will create some risk, like as like let's say the like constant surveillance. That means we have camera, so we can control, we can get all the like activity. So, but you just think sometimes it just like without any clear user consent or the control, then that means they can use it for certain purpose. So as a developer, like we know providing technical support, so we need to ethically do it correct. Okay, so we need to consider it. And here's one of the case it happened about related to the privacy. So in 2022, the Ring doorbell. So I think you are all pretty familiar. The Ring is the one of our brand. So they have doorbell. So that the footage was hacked. So it was exposing like some private moments of the user's home to unauthorized party. And sometimes that because when they doorbells, they have a camera and maybe the API backend communication, so they didn't encrypt their transaction or like they open to public, or they didn't using the TLS SSL to encrypt the transmission, so they know able to find their backend or API. Okay, the RESTful request. So that's why it don't happen. And we talk about those challenges. Then why is the privacy matter in IoT? Okay, so about the security risk, because all these security related to IoT devices, they are poorly secure. So we have like most of the time for weak password. Okay, so from our previous library, like our lecture, we all talk about like by default we use a default like admin and password will be 1234578 or admin password. Okay, so like this. So they're really weak password. And then when we install those devices, IoT devices, we barely to update the firmware. We just leave it over there. Okay, so it will become outdated. Okay, and also sometimes you just thinking, okay, I just put internally, so I don't care about encryption. I don't. Okay, so it makes like them really susceptible like to hacking. So it's easy. Okay, so the Maria the bottleneck. So I think we talked about that. Mirai. So it uses the some poor secure IoT devices to launch one of the largest the DDoS attack in history. So that's like some common example. And then will be the user trust. And if they feel that data not being properly protected, then they may lose the trust to the technology and then leading to the decrease of adoption. Just imagine, okay, if you like maybe we react to the doorbell, okay, maybe the camera surveillance, if they thinking, okay, they are not protected. They suppose when we have the surveillance system or doorbell, actually it can increase like the house security, okay, convenient, but maybe people have concern thinking, okay, if I install it, it makes me less secure than before I install those IoT devices. Then why I'm going to use it? So they will lose the trust. So it decrease the adoption. And the Facebook privacy scandal, so they around data misuse. Okay, Cambridge Analytica. So they result massive public backlash, and then also loss of trust. When we talk about Facebook, we always say if you pay attention to lots of Facebook, their behavior, they request to share, like maybe they have their Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp, and something they actually they request you if you want to keep on using those services, they request you to share your information or like cross sharing your data. Okay, and we are not like judge or discuss about how the matters at the company, but just know what happened, what did they did actually, it all like caused the issue. And also the legal and ethical impact, because when we collecting and sharing those like personal data without the adequate protection or the user consent, so it may violate the privacy right and then lead to some regulatory like fine. So nowadays we do, like I think in every country, all the country, we do have it. And for the GDPR, so one of the regulation, right? So it will find against the company. So if the Google, Facebook for data misuse, I think there's also so many news, and then how did they use the expose the users user data, okay, or they sell it for advertisement share to certain like third party. So and those like data collected by the IoT devices. Here would be some example, just I need to know, maybe including personal data. So your profile, like name, address, contact, or some like behavior data, like activity checking. So including if some like smart devices, like health devices, so including your steps, routine, interaction. So voice command buttons, okay, location, GPS, condition your movement pattern. So your smart home fitness app, or your vehicle, the car, health data, your heart rate, sleep pattern, calories burned, okay, fitness. And then environmental data like temperature, humidity, air quality, noise level. So all this will be like collected in the IoT. And we all come and talk about like smart thermostat or like the wearable devices. So there's a example. And when they after they collect, so they often share the data with the third-party company. Okay, of course they we can know like different purpose. Something may be benefit for development, but some of them maybe they want to bring like use for analysis. So it may be provide better or improve certain service, but most time maybe they want to like based on your activities, so the collected information and data, they will pop up some like advertisement. Okay, so maybe giving certain service, okay, over a certain service. So it's kind of like maybe the fitness tracker, so share to the health insurance company, so they can maybe have some like customized some like health plan because based on your physical activities, or the like Amazon Ring doorbell. So okay, this one. So it will share the video footage to the police department. So it will raising the concern about the privilege violation. So we need to like be careful. And the data sharing in IoT includes like maybe some like unauthorized sharing. So they will be caused the data leakage. So those sensitive data may be exposed to unauthorized parties and profiling. So they can use to create some detailed profile without your full awareness or targeting advertising. So they will share some to the marketer. So they use some aggressive or sometimes like invasive like advertisement. So this is an issue. And then they will check your when they checking your personal activity, then they will know your habit, routine, location, interaction of other for the devices. So we'll know, and Google Map. So we'll know like when you know your locations, where you're going, and then they can provide your activities summary. Okay, how much time you spend in certain location. And nowadays you will see that when you use a Google Map, you search for certain location, go to certain location, they will pop up as and recommend nearby maybe restaurant location you're expecting. So all these they will check in. And those like implication of the tracking, we know that one of is the behavioral profiling. So they can use like to infer sensitive like the information so about the person, some like they have condition or some life habit, or like they will surveillance system cameras they will like checking, so they lead to surveillance or like infringement like on the individual privacy, or like some smart speaker as well as say like Alexa, so it can like track voice interaction, store data, can be like accessed by the Amazon. Okay, some share with the third parties, or if you are like using Alexa and then you're looking for something, maybe you're using your Amazon app, then they will like keep like push something related to what you ask for, related to your profile. Okay, and mitigating your privacy risk, including the data minimization, because when we try to collect the data only necessary for device the functionality, and that's it. So if you we talk about thermostat, okay, so we should only like collect the data about the temperature, okay, occupancy, but not really related to data about daily routine or habit. Then, but maybe you ask a question like before for discussion. Okay, so if I want to provide really smart, because it's when a smart is just collect the data related to like temperature. Okay, but if I know I want to know like who, like if I can know like who is in the house, then how should I address the thermostat? Then that's another question. So what is like necessary? So even this still have a gray area. So what's like necessary? But try to be like, if we can collect as like minimal as possible and provide sufficient function, that is enough. Okay. And we never say, okay, I have a thermostat, but I need to record like users' voice and then their daily conversation. Then maybe no. So then you do maybe you're not required to have a speaker. Okay, like this, or have a mic like this. Okay. And then next will be the data encryption, because always we need to make sure the data that encrypted at both at rest. Okay, so that means when you say store it, and also in transit, we are transmitting over the network, especially from our IoT device, middleware, and then send it to the vessel's API server, and then save to the database. So they were encrypted at rest. Okay. So some information like sending, and the user consents and control, because we need to let the user know and easy to understand. Okay, mechanism, like let them to manage what data they share. Okay, so they maybe like have an option to let them to like opt in or opt out to sharing their location or have data with a third-party service. So you need to pop out and make it really clear. So do you want to send it? Okay. Before, if you heard or if you see, when you want to use certain service, they will ask you, okay, if you forgot to check, sometimes it's by default, so they check. So if you didn't opt out, then we'll assume you are willing to do it. Okay, willing to share. Okay, and then later they argue, okay, why you need to put it like by default is I'm willing to. Some people they change if I check it or I mark it it's okay, I agree with it, then it means opt in. So instead of say I have to opt out by myself, so it makes like doesn't make sense. So it's more like make sense like you for how can we design a good easy to understand mechanism. Okay, and transparency, how can we like inform the user what the data being collected and how it's being used, stored, and shared to the whole page. So maybe for the camera, so they need to provide user so data privacy policy, and then how the data usage, and then will those like videos like upload to the cloud, share. Once you are able to access the cloud, will they save it temporarily on the cloud, and then can the admin access to those video? Okay. But this really long time ago when I working on the surveillance system, so after you install the camera, so even they don't know, even you didn't set up the DDNS or if you didn't set the remote or open port, the company, okay, so those are manufacturer of the camera, they still have a backdoor. So because this one time, because they have to reset or you have to recover. So once you contact their representative, they can but of course they need to verify your identity, check your background, and they make sure you own the camera. Okay. So make sure they are not a attacker or who want to steal your information. Okay. But you see, manufacturer, they do have a backdoor. Okay. So how can we make that transparency? Okay. Let the user know. Okay. They, of course, they have a backdoor to check the devices, then make sure they are online. But why not you see most of the cameras using, you are able to check the status. Then how can they able to do that? Then we need to know, let the user know the transparency. And we talk about the GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation. So it's like regulation in the European Union, EU. So just govern the processing of personal data and to protect the privacy of the EU citizen. But we do have some pretty mentioned in the state or in country we try to follow. So it's a really strict rule on how the companies must handle the personal data, and then emphasize like transparency, user consent, or some like data protection. So it's talking about. And for the GDPR's principle, include the data minimization. This we'll talk about it. So only necessary data for specific purpose are accountability. So only the controller of the data, so it must be that demonstrate the compliance with the GDPR, and then the purpose, the limitation. So they only used for the purpose like which they was collected. Say using consent, they need to have a really clear informed consent before the data is collected, and then the applicability. So they is like apply to any company processing the personal data. Okay. And when we use it for the IoT, so also the consent and transparency, so they require to inform the consent before collecting the personal data. So when you allow to like collect the steps or heart rate or like sleep patterns for those fitness tracking app, or when you put on the watch, okay, or the fitness band, so it will kind of, and then will be the data processing and purpose limitation. So they only like process for specific and legitimate purpose, so cannot like be purposed for unrelated use. Okay. So if you collect voice for user comment, then you cannot use it for advertisement. Okay. And for the user right, so for the user, then we should have a right to like request access to their like personal data and erasure, so they can like request their personal data to be like deleted, and then also to portability of their data, so they can transfer their data to other service provider. Okay, if they don't want to use it, can I export the profile and export to another company? But they have all the right. Okay. And that one is called CCP. So we see it's a California Consumer Privacy Act. So it's a state level privacy law in California. So it will provide California residents a right over their personal data. So it's kind of similar. So they can like they have right to know, okay, what they use like being collected, and then they can like delete it if they don't want to let the business like company to keep their data, and then they opt out for scale of their personal data. And I see CCPA can apply to the business, they collect the personal data from California residents or some just some specific threshold. Okay, so maybe that worth over 25 million, then we can see. Okay. And then there's a consequence of the privacy violation. So for the GDPR, so they can like fine up to like 20 billion or like 4% global turnover. So should be pretty good. Or like maybe the fines for the CCPA would be 7,500 per violation. So pretty a lot. And this one time for the Google in 2019. So the French Data Protection Authority. So they fined Google for like 50 million euro. So euro. Okay. For failing to be the transparency, like how they collect user data and target advertisement. So you see how, and then we have the privacy by design, PBD. So it is the approach like and ensure the privacy embed into like design of a system, process, and products for the outset. So also it focuses on the proactive like measure rather than just a reactive solution. Okay, for protection. And there are seven foundational like principles of the PVD. So like proactive. Okay, so it's not reactive. So just if they anticipate the privacy issue before they arise, and also privacy as the default. So ensure the settings of the privacy there like to a maximum by default. Okay, always the highest setting. Okay, and then they should like embed into the design, is what we say. So we need to incorporate the features of the privacy into the system and full functionality. So we try to integrate and then the function without some unnecessary trade-off. Okay. And then we have the called end-to-end security. So we try to protect the data during its like entire life cycle. And also the privacy practice should be clear and understandable to the user. So it's visibility and transparency, and also respect for the user privacy. So user can control over their own data. So right here would be like pretty similar idea. So for the protection, and then how can we implement those privacy by design in IoT? So including like the collect only necessary data for the core function of the device and try to encrypt all the data collected. So at rest or in transmission. So to protect the information. So maybe we talk about the end-to-end encryption, and also let it accessible by the user. So we can do it in this way. And if we need to provide the user control transparency, maybe some easy to manage their data, so they can have an option quickly choose to opt in or opt out. So they can choose how can they can, if they're willing to share the information. For the development, includes the how can we build some privacy features from the ground up, so we can ensure all the like the data processing, storage, share compliance with the regulations. Okay, and during the deployment, we need to secure the provisioning and then some strong authentication method. So when we in practical like in the lab and then we try to learn something or like regular update to fix the vulnerability. So and here we will think about, okay, how can we like check or like let your API if you release a new version. So like how can you write a function, okay, to check, okay, if there's an update, something like this. And decommissioning, so ensure the IoT devices that secure decommissioned. So like wiping the data from the device so they're no longer used and being like deposed or we sold it. Okay. And here last part will be the lab activity. So you can look at it, like we can look at some like vendors like privacy policy if you're interested. So we can look at it. So what kind of the privacy policy they provide and what's their key practice. Okay. So I just quickly go through this part. So but we are not doing this part. So if you're interested, you can look at it. So far, just like quickly conclude all we learned. So including privacy risk in the IoT, kind of like repeating several things, but of course, it will be ethical. And then was the challenge of like calling the data sharing. And next, like we try to, because we know the challenge, we try to give some regulation, including a GDPR or CSCI, okay, to provide some protection. So, but they still need some enforcement and privacy by design. So we need to make sure those like measures apply. So when you are working on like design your Raspberry Pi, then you need to start from like when you start to thinking, okay, those function or like the data, are you only collect only the minimum or enough for your function? Then yes, okay. So that's like what we need to do. Because for some company purpose, okay, if I can collect more data from the user, even I'm not using, but I can resell it. So like ethically, you cannot do it in this way, right? So you need to protect your user. Okay, so gaining trust from user. And so far will be end of this lecture. And it's mainly just when we talk about privacy, ethical, and then like how can some like regulations. It will be like this. Okay, and thank you.